Chapter number 3, Karma Yoga. After the Sankhya Yoga, after Arjuna is instructed in the two disciplines, the disciplines of reasoning, pure reasoning, it's called Sankhya, and the discipline of Yoga, Sri Krishna now takes him to the third chapter, which is called Karma Yoga. The word karma is crucial, very central in Indian thinking, and there are offshoots of Hinduism or other religions, non-Hindu religions of India like Jainism, Buddhism, which do not accept the Vedas. They have their own authorities. The Buddhists follow the teachings of Buddha, and the Jains follow the teachings of Mahavira. Jains don't even believe in God in the sense that Hindus believe in. And Buddhism also discourages any kind of worship or image. Yet they accept karma. They accept the doctrine of karma. Karma itself, the word is derived from the root krit, which means action. Now karma can have wisdom. Karma that is guided by wisdom, and karma which is not guided by wisdom. When we say karma yoga, it means actions are being directed or guided or disciplined according to the dictates of wisdom. The chapter begins by Arjuna protesting. Arjuna is a skeptic and he shows his disbelief. He can't accept what Krishna is teaching him, because Krishna is praising knowledge and yet he is asking him to act. So the first mantra of the third chapter begins with the protest of Arjuna when he says, Jayase chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim ghore mam karma niyojyasi. When you are praising wisdom over action, then why do you ask me to perform this ghora karma? Ghora means ghastly, horrible action of fighting the war. So there is a level of uncertainty, puzzlement, bewilderment in the mind of Arjuna. Vyamishrene vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nischitya yena shreyo aham apnuyam. So he says, you tell me definitely, nischaya. Nischaya means conclusively. You give me your firm and precise teachings, give me a decisive answer as to which is better for me. Shreya means that which is for our well-being. By which way will I earn merit? So Krishna says, Loke asmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta mayanagha jnana yogena sankhyena karma yogena yoginam. Pura prokta means from ancient times. From the very ancient days, there have been declared two kinds of disciplines in this world. By me, the unitive way of wisdom, that is the Jnana Yoga for the Sankhyans and Karma Yoga for the Yogis. Yogis are active people. For those who are fond of action, there is the way of Karma Yoga. And for those who are good in reasoning, for them there is the way of Jnana Yoga. So this Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, these are two ancient, well-respected traditions. And when Krishna says, I have declared this from the most ancient times, it shows that he is a representative of this perennial wisdom, of the Absolute. And he is not speaking as a historical person. If he was speaking as a historical person, he will have to make a statement of that particular time in that context. But he does not speak in that particular context. He says from ancient times, from long ago. So he is lifting this teaching out of any kind of historical context. We are dealing with perennial values, most ancient, everlasting values. And those are these two disciplines, the discipline of Jnana Yoga and the discipline of Karma Yoga. Na karmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purusho ashnute nacha sanyasnadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. Now, sannyasis are people who do not perform action or who have transcended the need for action. They have become wise people and therefore need not perform action. But before you reach that stage of wisdom, just by abandoning action, you will not become a sannyasi. By refraining from initiating activities, a person does not come to have the attainment of transcending action, nor can one by renunciation alone come to perfection. Just by abandoning, by giving up, you will not get a siddhi, you will not get your perfection. And neither will you get the attainments just by abandoning, or not by initiating, not starting any activity, becoming passive, inactive. You won't become a sannyasi. Therefore, there is the necessity to work. We have a necessary action, necessity aspect of life. We have to breathe, we have to eat, we have to take a rest, we have to preserve ourselves. All these are considered the necessary aspect of life. We cannot abandon that. Not even for a single moment can one remain engaged in no action at all. By virtue of modalities born from nature, all are made to engage in action helplessly. Modalities of nature means the gunas, the Rajoguna, the Sattva Guna and the Tamo Guna, because that is constituting our nature, the natural urges in us. That will have to be expressed. You cannot suppress it. You cannot just brush it aside. Because we have many levels. We have a cosmic reality. We have a social reality. We have a psychological reality. And from all these three levels or these three areas, we have a pressure to act. Cosmic reality. When the sun rises, we have to wake up. When the sun sets, automatically we are put to sleep. We have no control over it. It comes by the course of the cosmic force. Similarly, there are social forces. We all have a station in life. We have a certain occupation. We have a certain placement in society. We have to function according to that. Then there are biological needs like hunger, thirst, reproductive urge. These are biological needs. You can't just ignore them. So all these different kinds of forces are exerting themselves. What we have to do is we have to channelize these forces. We have to organize them. We have to discipline them. And that is how we overcome. That is where Karma Yoga comes in. If you don't, then you become what is known as a hypocrite, a mithyachari. Supposing a person just sits quietly and he is apparently not doing any activity, but in his mind he is thinking about so many sensual things. He is thinking of what he can do. He is imagining. Then with his mind he is performing actions, but with his body he is sitting quiet. So such a person is considered as a hypocrite according to the Gita. This is called a mithyachari. But that is not the proper attitude. Instead, he who keeps the senses under control by means of the mind and commences unitive activity while still unattached, he excels. So the mind is to be used as an instrument for controlling the sense organs. And action has to be sublimated in the light of contemplation. It's a kind of verticalization. The senses which are normally taking a person into the world, they are to be restrained with the help of the mind. And the mind has to be made sublime by linking the mind to a higher force, to a higher reality, like the divine or God, when we say. Our action is getting a higher orientation. In this way, we have to sublimate our actions, not by suppressing or not by remaining inactive. But every urge has to be channelized and made into something sublime. It has to be taken to a higher reality. In a very simple example, we can say that children have the habit of playing with things. Now, supposing a child picks up something dangerous like a knife or a sharp object by which it can get hurt. Now, the reaction can be to scold it and to suppress it and say, no, don't do that, drop it. So the child will drop it. Or the other way would be to show the child something better, like something more attractive. So automatically the child will drop this thing and take that more attractive object. And so it has chosen a higher value, and by choosing a higher value, it loses what it was handling before. In this way, it has sublimated its mind. Its mind has gone to something higher. Similarly, in yoga too, we place our mind on something higher, a higher ideal, a higher purpose, and this way our mind is risen, not by suppressing, not by scolding the mind or trying to control the mind, but by giving it a chance to go to something higher. So do engage yourself in action that is necessary Activity indeed is better than non-activity. And even the bodily life of yours would not progress satisfactorily through non-action. So there is a progressive scale of activities. We should be active people. We should not be inactive. That is, we say akarma, vikarma and sukarma. Karmas can be divided into three types. Sukarma means good actions. Vikarma means wrong actions. Akarma means non-action. So we should never do vikarma. No person should get involved in a vikarma situation where he is performing an action which is wrong. No person should go into akarma too, that is inactivity. But every person should do sukarma, good actions, proper actions, actions which have responsibility, which are guided by some norms, by some rules, by some values. So that is sukarma, good karmas. Yajna arthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanam tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangaha samachara. Outside activity with a sacrificial purpose, this world is bound by action. Even with such a purpose, do engage in work, O Kaunteya, freed of all attachments. Sacrifice is action done for its own sake, not utilitarian but idealistic. See, in sociology also we say there are three ways of managing our affairs. One is coercive way. Coercive way means you are using force, like the army comes in and there is a coup, or when harsh method is used, fear is used to control the people. That is one way by which you can get people to perform action. The second is utilitarian. Utilitarian is when you are paying a person. You hire a person and you pay that person, or that person works for a salary. That is utilitarian. And the third is idealistic. Idealists perform social work for the sake of doing service to society, not for the sake of any benefit, not for any personal gain, but as a service, as a sacrifice. So that is considered the highest. It's an ideal. You are ruled by a norm, a high norm like love, justice, kindness, or some ideal like that is your principle which is driving you. That is considered the best. So similarly, sacrificial work, when we say most people are bound because they do not have this attitude of sacrifice in their work. They are working for their own self-centered purpose. So that leads to a certain bondage in their works. Outside of activity with a sacrificial purpose, this world is bound by action. Even with such a purpose, do engage in work, O Kaunteya, freed of all attachments. Sahayajnaha prajaha srishtva puro vacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadhvam esha voastva ishtakamaduk. Values result as a synthesis between yajna performed by people. We are reaching a cosmic social cycle, how in ancient times, having created the peoples with sacrifice as pertaining to them, Prajapati said, Prajapati means the Lord, that principle which has created us all. That is a Prajapati. Praja means the people. Pati means the Lord of the people. By this you shall grow and multiply, let this be the milch cow of all desires. So sacrifice. With this do you gratify the gods, and the gods gratify you, thus gratifying reciprocally you shall reach to supreme merit. Men and gods are as helpless as each other. So this was a cycle by which men, by performing their actions, their yajnas, their sacrifices, they pleased the gods. And the gods in turn, they pleased the people. So they formed a kind of a cycle. Here sacrifice means pure act, rather than single form of ritualistic sacrifice. When we say yajna, yajna can have the meaning of doing a havan. When we do a havan, when people do that, is generally called a yajna. You make sacrifices. You offer precious things or good things. You offer grains, you offer ghee into the fire. And that offering is carried to the gods, and the gods are pleased and they bestow their blessings to you. That is one meaning of yajna. The other meaning of yajna is sacrifice is a pure act. When you are moved by some ideal and your action has a sense of purity in it, pure act, that is also considered as a yajna. Here we can say that that pure act is what is meant. When our actions have purity in it, goodness in it, justice in it, sense of fairness in it, you can say that is a sacrificial action, with the intention of doing good to the world, bringing benefit to the people. We say that is a yajna. That when performed as a yajna, it purifies the person. It improves the world. So all actions which are done as a yajna, they bring about the well-being and the purification and the spiritual progress of the person. All actions which are done without this sense of sacrifice, they only bring bondage. Person can perform many actions, but you will not have the sense of freedom, will only have a sense of bondage. So the difference is between a patriot fighting for a cause, for your nation, or a mercenary. Mercenary is a soldier who is fighting for a salary. And the other is a soldier who is fighting because his honor, the honor of the country, of the nation is at stake. So naturally that person's fervor, his attitude will be so different. He will be so much more dedicated to the cause than somebody who is merely doing it for his salary. So this is a self-centered. The other is doing it with the ideal. So Ishtan Bhogan, those gods shall bestow on you all the gratifications you desire. One who eats what is given by them without giving in turn to them, he is a thief indeed. One-leggedness, when a person thinks only of himself, one has to live for another. So the main principle is live for another. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These are spiritual laws. If you read the Bible, in there Christ says, he who loses his life gains it, and who has gained his life loses it. So how does a person become spiritually advanced? He says he works for other people. He says Mahatma. How does a person become Mahatma? Mahatma is doing things for other people, not for himself. And that makes the soul force operate. Because if we look at our creation, everything is given to us nature-wise. Let's not talk of the socially made organizations, but if you see nature, the sun is burning itself out every day. It is exhausting its supply of hydrogen so that life on this planet can exist. So there is a sacrifice implied in nature itself. The egg has to break for the chicken to come, and the caterpillar must perish so that the butterfly comes out. So there is everywhere this sense of sacrifice. Something is to be given up for something else better to emerge. So if you understand this law of nature, then mankind also should perform his own sacrifice. He should also show his gratitude to the gods who are bestowing their favors. If he doesn't do it, it becomes one-legged. So Gita says such a person becomes sthena. Steya means to steal, to take away things. Asteya means not to take anybody's things. Steya means to take, misappropriate. So when people do not perform this yajna, don't have an attitude of yajna, then they become like thieves. They perform steya. So what is the problem here? Living, no problem, but spiritual life becomes poisoned. You become spiritually poisoned when this sacrificial aspect of life is not there. If there is no cyclic return back to the soil. Even in environmental studies now, we say when you take from the soil, you must give back something to the soil. You have to return something back. And that returning back retains, otherwise the soil becomes depleted, it becomes exhausted of its vitality. Similarly, mankind too, society too, everybody must have that cyclic thinking, attitude to life, that you're taking from the world, you should be giving back something to the world. We are giving back, but we give back with a profit motive. That makes one level. If same giving back is done without any profit motive, man becomes a saint, becomes a yogi. So this spiritual poisoning, as he says, the good man who eats the remnants of a sacrifice is absolved of all faults. However, those sinners who eat of evil itself, who cook with themselves alone for motive. So food is the cause of beings, and from food rain is produced. Sacrifice has its effect in rain, and sacrifice has its origin in action. Sacrifice is the link in a chain. Like we said, we have three levels of existence. We have a cosmic aspect of life, we have a social aspect, and we have a psychological aspect. Cosmic aspect means that which is relating us to this cosmos. How far does the cosmos go? Cosmos starts from the garden, from the plants that are growing outside. From here it extends all the way to the stars. That is the vast field of the cosmos. And the society is the interlink of our relationships, how we relate with one another. That is our society. And the thoughts and imaginations and ideas and fears and hopes and talents that are there in us, that is our psychology. So all these three come together in our life. And what is linking all these three is this principle of sacrifice, this principle of yajna. When we find that yajna brings this cosmic, human, social all together, it forms the central link. And it results in rain. And when rain comes, rain brings more food. And when food is produced, mankind is satisfied, is happy. There is sufficient security. And sacrifice, where does it have its origin? Its origin is karma samudbhavam. So we say that action is the basis of sacrifice. The same action, when it is directed, it becomes a sacrifice. Action treated in terms of psychology. Know that action arises from Brahma, and that Brahma traces his being to the imperishable. Therefore, the all-pervasive absolute is eternally bound up with sacrifice. So this is going down to the very core, the very origin. Where does karma arise? Karma starts from Brahma itself. Brahma is the principle of creation, God of creation. From the very God of creation itself, action starts. And where does Brahma come from? Brahma comes from the Absolute. He comes from Brahman. And that Brahman is the unchanging self, the transcendental self. From that. So that self is always tied up, bound up with sacrifice. There is a relationship between sacrifice and the Absolute. The Upanishad's way of life upheld. Then he says that he who leads a life hereunder that does not conform to the rotation of such a wheel, such a man of vicious lifetimes indeed, O Partha, is in vain indeed. So there he says the cycle should be maintained. Now this needs to be interpreted properly when we talk of yajna and ritual and other things. It should be interpreted in an intelligent way, not in a mechanical or a narrow sense, but in its wider application. That is, sacrifice need not only mean the ritual. Supposing you help a person, or you show your kindness to somebody, or you in some way bring a beneficial action to somebody. All this can come under the general title of sacrifice. So it need not mean just the ritual that is done, though the ritual can be included also. Ritual is symbolic. The symbolic act of sacrifice is when we perform the ritual. So this is what salvages the yogi from an ayogi. The ayoga person who is not a yogi has no such sensitivity. He has no sensibility that there is a cycle involved. So he is interested only that I should get, and I have no obligation to be a part of this cycle. So such a person becomes, in course of time, he says he gets lost, or he feels the burdening of karma, or his spiritual life is starting to get diminished. But when a person realizes that there is a law operating in the universe, a cyclic law of give and take, which is called sacrifice, yajna, and he participates in that yajna, then that person becomes a wise person. He is endowed with wisdom. So there, for him who happens to be attached to the self alone, who finds full satisfaction in the self, for such a man who is happy in the self, as such there is nothing that he should do. The person still caught in the world of action, or still in the active world, for him yajna is a method to raise himself. But on the other side we have the wise person, the philosopher, who has already raised himself, who is gone beyond. He is attached to the self alone. He has the Atman alone. Atma rati eva. Rati means the enjoyment or the joy. He is having the joy only of the Atma, Atma rati eva. So such a person, Atma tripta, and who is fully satisfied in the self. He need not go to anything else to feel his satisfaction. He is satisfied in the self alone. So such a person, there is nothing to do. For such people, they are philosophers, they are jnanis. Such a person has nothing to do. He need not perform any action because he has transcended action. It makes no difference for him if he gets or does not get, if he performs or does not perform. Yet he will perform for the sake of setting a good example. That's all. He does not feel that he needs anything or it will bring any personal benefit to him, but he feels he should set a good example. Otherwise people will mistake him. They will think that he is just sitting quiet, not doing anything, and people will start becoming lazy. So to avoid that wrong impression, this person undertakes activities for setting a good example alone. Neither is there anything indeed for him resulting from work done, nor anything from work omitted, nor is there either for him any dependence in respect of anything derivable from any being whatsoever. So this is a superior spiritual status of a person able to transcend action through self-knowledge. So only self-knowledge can bring about this karma dagdha, or all karmas will start dropping off, just like fruits when they become ripe, they drop off, or leaves when they become withered, they also drop off. Similarly, when a person becomes enlightened or gains knowledge of the self, from him also karmas start dropping off. He can become a wise person, he can become a guide, he can bring solace, he can bring understanding, he can bring unity, he can solve problems. Such a person need not perform any action. Automatically people will come to him. He need not do anything. His very presence will be a blessing to society. So you say that is a superior spiritual status. When he has got Atma Gyan, he understands everything. He understands people's problems. He understands their states of mind. He understands what is right, what should be done. So he becomes a guide, a pathfinder. Such a person has no action to perform. Before that, the person who is still ignorant of the self, he will be bound by action. And for him to feel release from action, is a sacrifice is necessary. Yajna, having a sacrificial attitude towards work, it's an attitude. Therefore, always engaged yourself in actions that are necessary. Indeed, performing actions with detachment, man attains to the Supreme. So non-ritualistic necessary actions persist even in the life of person established in self-knowledge. Therefore, remaining detached, engaging yourself in actions that are necessary, indeed performing actions with detachment, man attains to the Supreme. So this is the secret of Karma Yoga, performing actions with detachment. Acharan karma, asaktaha, without attachment. Normal human being performs action with a strong sense of attachment. Here we say we perform action without sense of attachment, without the sense of I and mine. It's a way of disciplining yourself, attitude of how we can perform an action without the sense of I and mine. But we are not being neglectful, we are just not having that attachment. And then we say another angle is action to be done to set a good example. That is another possibility. So these are all the different attitudes towards action. One is performing action with the sense of detachment. Other is performing action as a sense of sacrifice. Third is performing action as setting a good example to others. That is given in the example of Janaka. King Janaka was a great king. At the same time, he was a great Jnani also, philosopher. He is what is known as a philosopher king, Raja Rishi. And he had reached full Atma Gyan. He was a fully realized king. Yet he carried on his duties as a king and managed the kingdom with great justice, with the benefit of all. Having due regard for the integration of the world, you see, Loka Sangraha. Loka Sangraha means you have an interest in the welfare of other people. You are interested in the betterment of people, not necessarily in the social context of doing social service. Most social service do it only within their closed communities, not in that sense, but having a general sense of well-being towards the world. You are interested in the welfare of the world. You are interested in seeing all people develop and come up. So that sort of an attitude when you have, see, that is the Raja Rishi attitude. Performing actions for the benefit of others as a good example. It is a subtle subject, difficult to understand, and it has to be practiced in actual day-to-day life. Because the Gita is handling some of the sensitive issues of Vedic Hinduism. Vedic Hinduism is based on the yajna, on the sacrifice, whereas in other religions you won't have the yajna or the sacrifice like in the Vedic Hinduism. For instance, in Buddhism you will have ahimsa, principle of non-hurting, principle of maitriya, karuna, mudita, friendship towards all, compassion and cheerfulness. And in Jainas, you had extreme ahimsa, not hurting another living being. These are all the methods that are used by people to purify their mind, purify their thoughts and purify their words and deeds. Because the Gita is based on the Vedic model, we are given a very vast scheme, a very huge cosmic scheme first, which we have to understand in our mind, that we are taking the whole of the cosmos, whole of the universe, which is so vast. We don't know how far the limits of this universe are. Yet that is exerting its influence on us. We can't ignore it. We can't say that it doesn't matter. It matters because it is exerting its influence on us. And we are bound to it. We are bound on our existential level. Our very physical being, our physical frame is related with the elements. It belongs to the elemental side, the earthiness of this creation. And yet in us there is a spark. That spark is of the divine. That belongs to the spirit. The intelligence in us and the knowledge that is functioning in us, that is coming from the side of the spirit. So this is how spirit and matter, two things are getting interlaced in our very being. And karma is the link between these two. Actions is the link between the spirit and the material force. Action brings us in contact with the material world. And if that action is not directed, then that action can become the source of bondage, can become the source of human limitations. And yet the spirit in us is craving for its freedom. The soul in us, the Atman in us wants its own freedom, which will not feel happy in a bound state. So karma can become the means of liberation if it is made into karma yoga. If it is not made into karma yoga, then a person will lead himself constantly, over time will find himself in a state of bondage, without having matured, without growing in his spiritual understanding or spiritual knowledge. So yajna, the method, the attitude of yajna, the attitude of cyclic giving and taking or putting back into the system, that is quite important. See, in the Islamic context, they are supposed to give 10% of everything they earn to the masjids, to the mosques. That is their law according to the Quran. And every devout Muslim must give a portion of what he earns. It's called tithing. So you give back to the mosque partial earnings as an offering. What does that do? So that is part of your sacrifice into some noble purpose. So that helps the person to feel ennobled in his life, that he is doing something beneficial. He is doing something good. So good people, wise people everywhere, you find that they link up themselves with something or the other, some activities which are charitable in nature, which are good in nature, from which they don't expect any return. Yet return comes by the law of karma. If you do a good action, naturally the fruit comes. You can't deny it. It will come to you. But they don't calculate it. So some of our actions must have some sacrificial purpose in it, in which we are not expecting any personal benefit to come, but we think this is for the benefit of the world, benefit of the society, or benefit of somebody in the family, benefit of a child. So some part of us, we say, we live for others. Some part of us must be dedicated for other people's lives. Say, a promising person whose career you can help, or some cause which you can help. So this is how the karma becomes karma yoga. It becomes a yajna. So then you say karma becomes a yajna. Otherwise it becomes one-legged, self-centered, only one-sided. And that, according to the Gita, is not a very spiritually healthy. You might become socially a very prominent person, it does not matter. But spiritually it is not a right attitude. For the spiritual aspirant, there has to be this cyclic nature. You see, we are reading Zen in the morning, but some of the Zen monks, if you read their life stories, when they go to the river to have a bath, they take a dipper and they take one mug full of water. They pour half onto their own bodies and half they will pour back into the river. So that is the sense of sensitivity towards the elements. We are taking and we are also giving back. We are not exploiting. And if we extrapolate this idea to modern society, what is the troubles with our modern world is that we don't have enough of this cycling back, and there is blatant exploitation of the environment, blatant exploitation of people, and that leads to all the social unrest that we see, and the environmental damage that is happening is because one-sided. We are exploiting taking away, slowly dawning, so people are thinking now of how they can recycle. That is a more intelligent way of living rather than wasting. We should not waste, we should recycle. So here too we say in a spiritual sense we have to have this attitude of recycling, putting back, and that is called the yajna, and the pure action that we do. And we become conscious of our actions too. We have to see what is our attitude towards our actions and how we can spiritualize the action. So that becomes a karma yoga. The normal karma which is done out of attachment, from that we say we perform action out of detachment. So these are some of the secrets of karma yoga, which is given to Arjuna right now because Arjuna is basically confused about his role as a soldier, a Kshatriya. He heard the superiority of wisdom. We always say the superior man or the person who has transcended action, knower of the self who need not perform any actions. It makes no difference to such a person whether he does something or does not do anything. It's a very transcendental person. He is fully aware of self. He has self-knowledge. So Arjuna too is told of the superior way, and the superior way is the way of renunciation. So not performing self-centered actions, you become a renunciate. And this is what Arjuna wanted to become. But Sri Krishna dissuades him. He says that is a superior way, but you should fight. And this is what confuses Arjuna. He says, first you tell me that knowledge is superior to action, and then you tell me you should perform action. So vyamishrena vakyena, you are mixing up your words. Tell me which is proper for me. What is meritorious? By which way will I gain merit? And Sri Krishna then explains to him that there are two ways from the most ancient times, the way of Jnana Yoga and the way of Karma Yoga. So first you have to decide, you have to know where do you belong. Are you a Jnana Yogi or are you a Karma Yogi? If you are a Jnana Yogi, it means you have the ability to reason out for yourself, powerful reasoning. If you cannot reason out for yourself, then you are in the field of action. More active person who likes to perform action. That's also okay. Ultimately both meet at the same spot. Neither is superior or inferior. Both have the same goal, and that is emancipation or freeing the self. But the methods they are using are different. The Karma Yogi, by performing Nishkam Karma as he calls it, performing actions with a certain sense of detachment, or performing actions with a sense of yajna, and having an idealistic orientation to action also. We do actions which are practical. Practical is related to the necessary aspect. Necessities are dealt with practically. So that's all right. But we must have ideals also. There must be ideals to guide us. Then we have a balanced life. Too much pragmatics makes it horizontalized life. Life becomes devoid of high values. And too much verticalization, person becomes a misfit, cannot function in the world. So you have to have a balance between the ideal and the practical. And that is what yoga is all about, how to strike that perfect balance. So yajna comes in there. Yajna becomes the means by bringing about this balance between the ideal and the practical. Action then becomes a means of purification. Undisciplined action becomes the cause of bondage. A person finds himself getting deeper and deeper in the mire of actions, obligations, and so many different tangles that a person feels after some time. He has no freedom. That is to be avoided by this attitude of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga says that you can perform actions with greater dexterity, infusing spiritual values into your activity. Krishna says the Absolute is functioning just like a catalyst in a chemical reaction. It does not participate, but it is necessary for the action to take place. Similarly, it's from the Absolute or from Brahman, the Most High, that all actions are taking place. Krishna says, because of me. I am not obliged to work, but yet I see that all these actions are being performed. The three worlds, I am not obliged, but I remain active in principle. So the principle of action goes to the Absolute, to Sri Krishna himself, Supreme Godhead. Setting a good example is especially very important, because when you see yourself in a role of a wise person, when you begin to become an understanding person, you still have to perform action. Action is not to be avoided. This is a contribution of the Gita, because in the traditional sense in India, when you look at sannyasis, sannyasa meant giving up of all actions. Why? Because mukti or moksha or salvation cannot come by actions. This is the fundamental truth. The spirit which is animating all beings is one. There is only one spirit behind all of us. And that spirit cannot be attained by action. By performing action, we cannot understand the spirit, only by knowledge. So knowing that, people started abandoning action, preferring to remain inactive. And this is the great contribution of the Gita, that it advised people not to abandon action, because nobody can avoid actions. Actions are so much tied up with our life process. But these actions have to become channelized or linked with the Absolute. Yuj means yoga. Yoga means conjoining. Karma is a very delicate topic, because this will go on for 3 chapters. Next chapter will be on knowledge, and then you say karma sannyasa yoga again. So resolving karma or understanding the nature of karma is very elusive. It's very difficult to understand how karma functions. We are all bound by our karmas, each one of us reaping the benefit of our karma. Karma comes to us in the form of karma phala. This is the doctrine of karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. Here even God cannot help you. Each person has to work out his or her own karma. And it has many ramifications. So Hindus believe whatever we experience in this life, good or evil, is the result of our karmas. If we are facing difficulties in life or obstacles in life, we say this is the fruits of bad karma. If we have joy in life, happiness in life, we say this is the fruit of our good karma. So karma is like the boomerang. You throw it, it will come back to you. There is no escape from karma. They say, in traditional folk thinking, they will say, even God cannot punish a good man, and even God cannot save an evil man. Unless a person changes his karma, even the grace of God cannot come. So karma is very crucial. And how to bring a transformation in karma? That is only through knowledge. Knowledge means not information, not secular knowledge, but spiritual knowledge. When spiritual knowledge comes, then you find like a fire burns wood to ashes. This spiritual knowledge also starts converting a person's karma, reduces the karmas. The karmas start becoming sublime. When karmas become sublime, all the difficulties and problems of life fall away. There are no problems. Problems existed only as long as ignorance was there. Once ignorance is removed, everything becomes visible. All things are known. When knowledge shines, then there is no more difficulties in life. This is the great secret. And the method is through transformation of the attitude of karma, nishkam karma, with some high value or some high purpose in their minds. They perform these actions, and that made all the difference. In contrast to that is the person who performs action only for himself. So even in the Atma-upadesha Satakam, Narayana Guru says, the wise man works day and night for the welfare of other people. And the self-centered person, he thinks only of himself and he faces difficulties. If a person is facing difficulties, you say that is because of self-centered attitude. And that is the nature of most of our society. It's natural for human beings to think of themselves until a Mahatma comes, or the Gurus come, or the teacher comes and shows them the way, that there is a better way to live. Till then, mankind is generally self-centered. But once in a while you find the great person comes, a great soul comes, like a Buddha or a Shankaracharya, Narayana Guru, Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna Paramhansa, Vivekananda. They inspire the people and they actually show it. They don't just preach, but they live it. We can do so much greater things because we have an attitude that is different. We are not thinking of ourselves, we are thinking of all. So this is how the change comes about. Everybody can do it. Everybody has the potential. Everybody is capable. Everybody has the right. But it must be practiced. And that is where you say you need a guide. Gita becomes a good guide. How to make the action into a yoga. What is normally done as our day-to-day action, how to convert it into a karma yoga. From simple karma into karma yoga. And that brings about the benefit and the salvation that we are seeking. It's a very vast subject. When we look at karma kanda, that is the Vedic aspect of Hinduism, where we say the best karma we can perform is a ritual. If the Pandit comes and the Pandit performs a ritual, a good karma, that is called as Sat Sankalpa, good Sankalpa. We think good thoughts, we perform good actions. That whole atmosphere we create, so divine. What does it do to us? It purifies us. Our karma becomes purified. But in a more dynamic spiritual sense, you say you start using the world as your yajñashala, and your actions, your activities, your words, your thoughts, your deeds, everything becomes part of the discipline. That will come later on. We'll say how tapasya of the mind, tapasya of the body, tapasya of the word. This is how we make every aspect of our life disciplined and sublime and superior. We are trying to become superior beings. So karma, when it is not made into a yoga, it will leave a person as just an ordinary person. But when karma becomes a karma yoga, the person becomes superior. So this is the reality, the truth behind karma. So that is the secret of karma yoga. So that is half the chapter here, and it goes on to explain further on. That we'll do next time.